people were realising that the drugs were the solution.
Yep.
So if they're the answer, what on earth was the question? Everything in my life had collapsed. I'd lost a lot. I was living in squalor. My eyes are opened by my mind waking me up with an obsession to find heroin. My body is aching. My nose is runny. My eyes are watering. It's like my legs have been held in a vice and someone is sawing at my bones with a blunt hacksaw. You can, it's inside you. Yeah. So it's not the outer legs aching, it's the inside of me. It's like my molecular structure is just not holding itself together. And you think, I've been laying here now for 3 hours, and you look round and the clock has moved 25 minutes. Time just goes on forever. Everything slows down. You cannot sleep. So you are just in this intense pain where every part of your body is gnawing at you. And then this voice is just going, you know what will stop this? You know what will stop this? You know what will stop this? And it really is a nasty, nasty withdrawal. In fact, it was alcohol that really brought me to my knees in the end. I'd just come out of a treatment centre in Luton, and I've got a few months under my belt, and I'm bouncing about and I feel quite good. And I had that drink, and I ended up getting absolutely paralytic, waking up the next day with one of those hangovers from hell. And I do not remember flying home to Luton. I don't remember the flight. And within 2 days, I'm sitting outside Luton train station begging for change so I could intravenously use drugs again. To hold Jacob in my arms, I don't even think he really took a breath. He just went, he passed. That was the darkest moment of my recovery.
If there is any positive to come out, is for the listeners and viewers to hear that you can get through the darkest times in recovery and still not relapse.
Yeah.
That's a massive.
That's the message.
Welcome to School of Rock Bottom with Oliver Mason. I'm an actor, a voiceover artist and recovery coach who's been sober 10 years, and I know firsthand that rock bottom moments can be the greatest teacher and the springboard for a beautiful life. And as you know, I interview fellow creatives and all inspiring people that have hit rock bottom, survived and thrived. This is a podcast of hope and how to get out of the darkness into the light, and that's why I'm so excited today, because I've got the terrific Terry Devine in the studio.
Thank you, terrific Terry. Pleased to be here, Oliver.
I'm so grateful you've driven all the way from Weston today to be here. Good surname as well, godlike, Devine.
Yeah, it's my dad's.
Now, before we get into all this amazing stuff, a quick shout out to the sponsors of today's episode, the brilliant Gavin sisters. Head to the show notes for 10% off their funky coffee and wellness retreats. Right, if you don't know who Terry is, shame on you, you will do now. A quick bio, we're going to jump straight in. So Terry Devine spent over a decade rebuilding his life in recovery, and now he's a lecturer in forensic science at the University of the West of England. Wow. He's also a clinical addiction hypnotherapist, recovery coach, and founder of Devine Recovery Solutions, helping others find their way out of addiction. Terry is a passionate fundraiser in memory of his son, climbing mountains and volcanoes in places such as Ecuador and Kilimanjaro. And Terry is nearly 13 years clean and sober. Wow, what an intro that is.
Yeah, just as you're reading that out, you know, I know it's about me, but sometimes it feels a bit alien, because going right back into my addiction, I didn't think I'd be anything else other than that lonely addict. And when that's read out about me, it's like there's a lot of pride in there. I'm very proud of what I've achieved, and I need to constantly acknowledge what I am doing, because it's important for me, self-esteem, etc. And it's good for other people to hear what's achievable. You said this is a podcast of hope, and today I hope that we can give someone else hope out there that needs it.
Terry, you know how I always start the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you to share a rock bottom moment, but from there we will get into the hope, the joy, the light and the recovery.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I've kind of got 2 examples, slightly different, if it's okay to share those.
Absolutely.
And the first one is I'd been using heavily for a long while, and I was really caught up in my addiction. And my parents lived abroad, and I'd done that thing where you beg them, please let me come and sleep on the couch, just sit on. I need a couple of weeks to sort myself out, and I'll change my life. And I flew over to my parents. I was living in France at the time, and I was out there, and I'm withdrawing, and the head is alive, the obsession of, I don't want these withdrawal feelings. How can I stop them? I know how to stop them. I'm in a foreign country. I'm all alone. I'm 30 something, you loser, all that type of stuff. And it just got really, really, really dark. And I remember just thinking, I've had enough of this. I've had enough. And I'm there in my mum and dad's living room, and they have this big kind of log fire thing. And I'm really at my wit's end. I just remember one night, specific night, I was all alone. I'd chosen this night. Maybe it was symbolic that I was back in my parents' house as well. And I was just sitting there, and they had this poker that you kind of push the wood with in the fire. I just remember pushing that in there, leaving it in there, and I took it out. It was glowing. I just remember pushing it into my arm as a sign of self-hatred and a big up yours to a God that I didn't even know whether I believed in or not. How can you let this happen? I just remember taking all the tablets I had, all the pills, just ingesting all of those and drinking a bottle of gin. This is it. I've had enough. And this was a really severe rock bottom. If a person is in a position where they think the answer is to try and take your life, can you imagine the type of pain they're in?
Yeah, that's right.
And, obviously I woke up the next day feeling rubbish. And this is an example of a rock bottom. But what I've learned from that is every rock bottom can always have a trapdoor.
Yeah.
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 5 years I went on after that.
Wow.
So to be at that point, continue for over 5 years maybe in addiction, really kind of says something. And then the other example I've got, which I think enforced change in the end, was more of a spiritual rock bottom, an emotional rock bottom, and heavily into my using. Really, everything in my life had collapsed. I'd lost a lot. I was living in squalor. I was poorly. I was unwell, really, really at the end of it. And I just remember I used to be heavily withdrawing. I was addicted to opiate drugs. I was a heroin addict, a full-blown street-level junkie. And I used to get that needle to register, and I'd plunge that shit into my veins, and all it would do is it would stop the withdrawals and it wouldn't take away the pain. I took drugs as a coping mechanism because internally I was in some form of pain. And when the drugs stopped working, to me, that was an emotional rock bottom, because I just thought that solution you found don't work. Everyone had cut me out. There was nothing left to do. I wasn't very good at taking my life. So there was no option for me other than to have a shot at changing my life, or I would live in that pain until the day I died prematurely.
Wow. It's amazingly put. Thank you so much. It's a generous share there. So much identification as well. And I'm sure there'll be lots of listeners and viewers that can relate to aspects of that as well. You generously shared as well that heroin and opiates were part of this rock bottom and your addiction.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could just go back a step. I've heard you share before that you sort of didn't feel enough.
Yeah.
There was a sense of shame that you had.
Yeah.
That you had that from when you were a young age, a sort of sense of shame and you weren't good enough. And do you think that's why when drugs came in, it was so powerful for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can tell you where it stemmed from. So at 5 years old, have you got children?
No, I don't.
So for the listeners, if anyone's got children, had children, think of your child when they're 5 years old. They are small, they are pure, they are innocent. I was taken out of the safety of the family unit for the first time and sent to primary school.
Yeah.
So up until that moment, I knew love, support, protection, security from my parents and the house I lived in with my sibling. And then I ended up going to primary school, and I ended up having this horrible, wretched, spiteful, bitter woman of a teacher.
Right.
And she was a wartime teacher that didn't realise corporal punishment was over.
Oh, God. Right.
Yeah. And she ruled that classroom with fear. And you imagine, 30 students or however many students there was then, all looking frightened, fearful, screaming, shouting. And I developed a tic during that time.
Right.
And I was always wearing shorts because I wet myself all the time.
Shit, right, okay.
And what she used to do is she used to grab me, take me up to the front of the class and just slap me for not being able to answer what 8 times 4 was,
Right.
or something like that. And ever since that moment, I have deep anxiety, fear of getting things wrong, and fear of being shown up in front of groups of people.
Got you.
She slapped shame into me.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've experienced shame. Maybe some of the listeners have. But to live with shame, and I think Brené Brown says it quite well, the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad.
100%.
So
exactly how I look at it.
So I've given myself an identity now that I am bad.
Got you.
I'm not good enough. And to live my life like that in every interaction that I face, that's the underpinning of it all.
Yeah.
Coupled with that noisy head that us addicts tend to have, constantly self-defeating, critical. It was very painful. At the age of 13, it was painful and I felt uncomfortable in my own skin. And then I drank alcohol.
Right. So that was your first drug that you took?
Yeah.
Right.
And through alcohol, it was like, the soul sighed and it breathed. I thought, I just found some confidence.
Right.
I just found some self-esteem, some self-worth.
Yeah.
And then kind of follow the course of addiction forward until I tried heroin. And when I tried that, it was like getting that warm hug from a parent,
Right.
when you're a child.
Yeah.
When you fall over and hurt your knee and your mum picks you up and cuddles you and everything's okay. Or when you're tired and you can't, and your dad comes in and he picks you up and he carries you and takes you up to everything in that moment in life is okay.
Yeah.
That's what heroin was like for me.
Sorry to interject. Had you not felt that before up until that point from like a parental figure or another member of the family or a friend?
I'd experienced it.
Yeah.
But I'd lost it because of what that teacher did. I feel that little boy was tarnished, corrupted, polluted.
Right. Okay.
And part of trauma is not kind of being able to voice and divulge that to my parents of what had happened.
Right. Got you.
Okay. So I will deal with this myself. And then when I found heroin, I found a companion.
Got you.
And share this pain with this person.
Right.
Yeah. They know. They understand. And just keep it quiet and just move on. And do you know what? I kind of buried some of this, and it was only in a conversation with my mum when she turned around and said, I remember that when you was in her class. And you used to have a tic. And as soon as she said that, it came back. And I was like, oh, I had a tic. And then I thought about the shorts and thought about the slapping, and it all come back in. And I thought, yeah, that was wrong. That shouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? So maybe I've tried hiding that all the way along and not fully accepting what had happened.
I think the sentence you just said is a real insight into what addiction is when you said that it understood my pain. Somebody outside of addiction would go, well, how can a drug understand your pain? It's not a person with its own thoughts. It's a thing. Yeah. But for people like us, it's it's a very intimate relationship,
Yeah.
and it's like being in a relationship with a human being. Well, for me, it was God. It was everything. It was the universe. It was God. It understood. It was always there for me. It would always show up, no matter what. It would be there until obviously it stops working.
Yeah.
But the way you described it at the beginning, I can relate to with alcohol, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more common now that people are realizing that the drugs were the solution.
Yep.
So if they're the answer, what on earth was the question?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
For someone, so I'll use myself as an example, to root around in a sin bin, so that's a place where you discard all your needles, to find one that's not got any congealed blood in, to kind of try and straighten it out, get rid of the barb on the needle so that I can plunge it into my neck. If that's the solution, what on earth was happening inside?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Or getting that thing in the fire and putting it on your skin. So similar kind of thing. Also, I believe going on at the same time, I'm assuming undiagnosed ADHD as well, which you've referred to on a TikTok post. Told you I've been stalking you. As the gateway drug.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So I didn't know about this until only a few years ago when I got diagnosed on TikTok.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
And then I got an official professional diagnosis through my employment.
Right.
And then because at first I thought, no, that's not right. I can't have that. My diagnosis was that I've got ADD and dyslexia. Well, I can't have that because I've done some work and I've got degrees and I can read and this and that. And they said, you'll be surprised. And the more I looked into it, the more I understood and noticed the correlation between people with ADHD and addiction.
Right, yeah.
So I think Gabor Mate speaks about it where he says ADHD is a coping mechanism. Addiction for me was a coping mechanism. Yeah. So long before the drugs, if that was in me, that ADHD stuff, if I had them tendencies, that way of thinking, if I found the world difficult already and I needed a coping mechanism, it stands to reason that that's a good coping mechanism for a young soul that don't know what to do.
Sure.
So ADHD could be the gateway drug, because that's what led me to seek substances, because here I felt at disease, I felt irritable and restless. So I need to kind of soothe that and attend to it.
This is why I'm so pleased that there's so much more awareness around something like, say, ADHD now, because you know, a lot of big people in the space, in the ADHD space, who have podcasts and they're experts on it, you know, they really warn about the danger of becoming addicted to substances. And I think because of that warning, a lot of people are listening. You know, they're not hitting the drugs and the booze nowhere near as hard because of the education that's going on, which must be a really good thing, you know, because when I was a kid, we didn't know anything about this stuff. No. Something else you said in another interview, like when you tried alcohol, and you talk about the therapeutic effects of it, the soothing effects of it, and you just did with heroin. Your next question was always, what's next? Yeah. What's next? And I think you sort of got to heroin quite quick. I mean, were you just sort of like going up the ladder, if you like? So it was booze, then coke, then speed. Were you just ramping it up all the time?
I guess it's some type of morbid fascination with that living on the edge kind of thing. And I remember as a young teenager, on my wall, I'd have pictures of like Kurt Cobain and Jim Morrison and all these rock stars that have died young, lived fast and died young.
27, 28 or something?
Yeah, the 27 Club.
27, that's it.
And, you know, and part of me just always felt like, oh, I'd like to be like that. And I guess what it was is within the field, with being in addiction, it removes you of all responsibilities. And I think that's what it was. I just found the world so difficult to manage that by stepping into that world, I could act as, I don't care. It's not a problem. Don't need to conform, do what I want. It's just an easy way to deal with that. But from the drinking to the heroin use happened rapidly. And again, this morbid fascination. I always remember thinking, yeah, when that comes around, I'm trying that. As a teenager, thinking in my head, I'm going to try heroin.
Yeah.
That's not a normal thing to do.
Sure.
And I think by the time I was about 18, around about that time, I was already under the doctor getting a prescription to help me with a heroin habit that I had.
Mm.
Now, I work today as a lecturer and I teach people at university level. So when they come to us, they're roughly about 18 to 21. Now, they're adults.
Hmm.
We treat them as adults.
Yeah.
But sometimes I look at them and think, you're children still.
Sure.
And at that age, I was already off the rails.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very kind of fast trajectory to get to some end goal, which really didn't serve me well in the long run anyway.
Which was kind of proven, I guess, by the fact that you were only smoking heroin for a short period and then you were into intravenous use pretty quick.
Yeah.
What's chasing the dragon? I see. I always thought chasing the dragon was when you're withdrawing, so you're chasing that hit, or is chasing the dragon when you're smoking it? I'm a bit confused.
Typically, it's in reference to when you're chasing, like you're they call it booting heroin on the foil,
Right. Okay.
and you've got a sheet of foil, and you've got a little beetle of heroin on there, and you've got the lighter going behind it, and it just kind of traces down the foil, and you tip it up and you do it again, and you've got a tube and you're just following along behind it.
Okay.
Well, I guess there's some Eastern philosophy behind it where you're chasing that kind of demon or something that has a hold over you.
I know alcohol withdrawal only too well, and benzo withdrawal, and even sleeping tablet withdrawal very, very well. I had some horrendous alcohol withdrawals many times in hospitals and detox units, and hallucinations, seeing things coming off my skin and things like that. I've got no experience of a heroin withdrawal. I just wondered, could you take my listeners and viewers to sort of imagine you're in the middle of your addiction with heroin. What's it like when you open your eyes in the morning and you're addicted to heroin? What's that like?
Right, I'm not going to do this justice because I've never been able to explain this. It's just my words will not explain it deep enough. It is like my eyes are opened by my mind waking me up with an obsession to find heroin, find the money to get heroin. I'm just in withdrawals. Yeah, my body is aching. My nose is runny, my eyes are watering. So let's put me right in the middle of withdrawals. So I've not had heroin or any opiates for a few days. I'm in the middle of my, what they call a cluck.
Right.
Yeah. It's like my legs have been held in a vice and someone is sawing at my bones with a blunt hacksaw. You can, it's inside you. Yeah. So it's not the outer legs aching, it's the inside of me. It's like my molecular structure is just not holding itself together. It's like a really intense type of flu. Yeah. But at the same time, you're just cold to the core of your being. You're laying there just sweating, just wanting this to be over. And you think, I've been laying here now for 3 hours. And you look round and the clock has moved 25 minutes. Time just goes on forever. Everything slows down. You cannot sleep. So you are just in this intense pain where every part of your body is gnawing at you. And then this voice is just going, you know what will stop this. You know what will stop this. You know what will stop this. And this just goes on and on and on and on. I've sat in a number of treatment centres and been through that, detox units and been through that. And I've had to persevere. But there's a lovely part where one day it breaks and I just think, do you know what? I feel a bit better today. I managed to get 20 minutes last night and slowly I start to mend and feel better.
Yeah.
We had the discussion before, but I think what happens is we recover physically quite quickly.
Yeah.
But we still have that stunted emotional development.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And off we go again. But yeah, for me, there's nothing like a heroin withdrawal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
However, I have withdrawn from benzos and alcohol, and they are extremely nasty as well.
Sounds like heroin might be a little worse.
It's worse in the experience that I've went through,
Yeah.
but alcohol withdrawal and benzo withdrawal you can die from.
Absolutely.
And
That's right.
you know how alcohol is glamorized in society. It's very the norm type of thing, and it doesn't really get its due attention of the
Yeah.
damage it actually does, and how
Yeah.
many people out there are suffering from it. And
Mm.
it really is a nasty, nasty withdrawal.
Mm.
In fact, it was alcohol that really brought me to my knees in the end.
There's a lot of talk, I think more with heroin actually than any other drugs, about the behavior that comes with heroin addiction, the criminality, the stealing and all of that, where there's much more of a discussion about it being seen as a health issue rather than a criminal issue.
Yeah.
I'm then assuming if we then fast forward that day a little bit further and you do decide to go and score some heroin, which obviously you did most of the time in those days,
Yeah.
would that lead you to stealing and doing things out of character, because you were just so desperate to get that hit?
100%.
Right.
So I've always said I was a good-natured child with good morals and good principles. The majority of the things I'd done in my addiction really went against my character.
Yeah.
I'd done things that in private I cringe about today.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I think that's not right. It shouldn't be like that. But it's like having this drive I need that.
Yeah.
And anything between here and there that gets in the way, tough.
It's just pure survival, isn't it?
It does become survival. It's like living on an animalistic level.
Yeah.
Very feral.
Yeah.
I need to get that. I need to get that. I need to get that. And at the same time, you've got other people out there which are thinking the same about you. So if you're getting involved in their way, they're kind of driving straight through you.
Yeah.
So it just makes it really just a horrible existence, really chaotic when you get a lot of addicts together in a friendship group, all kind of backstabbing each other and doing each other over.
Well, sometimes the term real alcoholic or real addict is shot down very quickly. And I can understand why. People say, well, what's a real alcoholic? What's a real addict? But for me, it's when it gets into that chronic and severe alcohol use, substance misuse disorder, which is what you're describing. That's my lived experience as well. I guess that's what it means. It's that severe type, whether that makes it real or not. I'm not saying that it does, but that's my experience as well. It's not a kind of a sober, curious sort of grey area. It's like, this is survival. I'll do anything to make it happen. Completely relates to that.
Yeah, well, I think there's a bit of a theory that the difference between heavy dependence and addiction is when there's a psychological aspect to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the mind is affected. The mind is taken over.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people I grew up with that drank heavily, but they never did the things I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So is it because there was some underlying trauma? Is it because of ADHD? Is it a genetic thing that's not been discovered yet? I'm not sure, but I know when I got to a certain point and it just becomes psychological along with dependent.
Yeah.
It was like all choice had been removed from me. And it was like autopilot. I must survive. I must do this to get that.
Absolutely.
Or else.
You can see it with brain scans, can't you? You can scan brains and you can see they're completely different to somebody else. And I think it really does have to cross into that sort of moderate, severe side for that brain change to really start to be massively different. So relapse is a big part of my story, and I know it is with you as well. And yours maybe is slightly different in the sense that I think you got clean off heroin, but then alcohol came in. So cross addiction was happening and putting one drug down, and then the game of whack-a-mole that we call it, another one comes up. I wonder if you could just describe that, because I think cross addiction is something not spoken about hugely. Getting clean off your number one drug, but then picking up something else. I wonder if you could dive into that experience a little bit.
Yes, I'll give you my experience of relapse and finally understanding something. I heard you talk on a podcast before about relapse. You didn't say this, but relapse being part of recovery. I've always seen it as relapse is a lack of recovery.
Same.
Yep. So when I pick up the drink and drug, it's the end product of a relapse.
Yeah.
So it starts way before, usually with behaviours and thinking. I've just come out of a treatment centre in Luton, and I've got a few months under my belt, and I'm bouncing about and I feel quite good. And I've been through the withdrawals. I'm off of opiates for the first time in my life and I feel good. And at the time, my brother was living in France, and so I've done my time. I'll go over, see my brother, have a bit of time over there, come back. And I was living in a dry house in Luton as part of the treatment centre. And I remember flying over to France where he was, meeting up with him, and he said, "Do you want a drink?" I said, No. I can't do that. I'm in recovery." And then later that night, when everyone had gone, I said, "Do you know what? I will have that drink now." And I had that drink, and I ended up getting absolutely paralytic, waking up the next day with one of those hangovers from hell. You know, the ones where you kind of move an inch, you're just violently ill and your body's screaming out.
Yeah.
And I'd lived in France for a number of years. I lived and worked in France for a period of my life, and I knew how to work the doctor's system over there. So next morning I got up, went to the doctors, you pay, see the doctor, said all the stuff, and I walked out of there with a load of benzos, a load of Subutex, and a load of sleeping pills. And I just took a load of those. And I do not remember flying home to Luton. I don't remember the flight.
Wow.
I walked into the dry house, and the people that living in the dry house with me accused me of using. Now, in my head, I thought I was very presentable and held it all together. The truth is, when you're on benzos and that type of prescribed drug, you're just all over the place, dribbling, incoherent, etc. And I was kicked out. And within 2 days, I'm sitting outside Luton train station begging for change so I could intravenously use drugs again.
Wow. God.
And in that moment, what happened, something registered with me, and it was like, oh, I get it. You can't even drink. You can't drink. And that's when it kind of fell into place for me that, it wasn't the specific substance because it was habit forming. It was everything. And then I understood in order for there to be successful change, I needed to address everything in its entirety.
Right, got it. Do you think most people, when it's severe addiction, have to give up booze? Say they're addicted to other drugs. Do you think, generally speaking, that is the case for most people?
Well, I'll be careful with what I say. It's everyone's individual journey and individual path of what they believe sobriety looks like and what they want to achieve.
Yeah, sure.
What I will say is if it's a coping mechanism, if it's a solution, for something going on within, then if I continue to use a substance, then I will not be able to fully deal with what's going within.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm still kind of smothering those feelings. They're not being fully addressed and they're kind of hidden and covered up. Or I go into complete abstinence, where I'm fully available to feel my feelings and therefore deal with the issues that are happening.
That is the boom moment, isn't it? Yeah. When you're able to do that.
Yeah.
So you're in active addiction, was it a couple of decades? I'm trying to do the maths.
Yeah. About 2 decades, 20 years-ish.
Wow. With relapses in that time.
Lots
but
of relapses.
Now coming up to 13 years clean and sober.
Yeah.
So what was it that changed? I mean, I know you just described the moment where you were like the inner snap, if you like. Now I know what to do. But what recovery methods have helped you? Because I know people will be listening going, how the hell have you done it? Because what you're describing is really, severe use. And now, nearly 13 years. I mean, I'm just going back to your bio, a lecturer in forensic science, clinical addiction hypnotherapist, recovery coach, climbing mountains and volcanoes. What on earth arrested all of that?
I guess it comes down to a personal decision. One of the key things that changed for me is everyone around me stopped enabling me. And at that moment, I realised I was alone in this world, that no one else was going to be able to change my circumstances other than me. That was quite a harrowing moment, but quite an insightful moment. And, and I privately made some decisions that, okay, I'm going to give this a go and see where it leads. And if it doesn't work, my misery can always be refunded and I can tell everyone I told you so.
Yeah.
So, I've been under drug services since I was about 18 years old. I've been to detoxes, I've been to treatment centres, I've been to 12-step treatment centres, I've been to self-empowerment treatment centres, I've been to meetings before, I've done all these things. But I guess in those last moments of desperation, I had to give something a go.
Yeah.
This time round, I found my recovery in 12-step fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what is the difference? Why did it work this time? Because of my spiritual rock bottom.
Yeah.
Because of how desperate I was, but also because of a belonging to a community.
Mm.
And I found that so important because I've always felt like a lost and frightened child.
Mm.
And really what I'm wanting is for people to kind of guide me and look after me.
Yeah.
And I found that.
Absolutely.
And it's like a little bit of hand holding.
Yeah.
People kind of holding my hand, that 5-year-old boy that got slapped in that classroom, kind of holding my hand and bringing me out of that classroom and saying, come on, let's just have a walk into life.
Yeah.
Let's just have a look. We won't go too far. We just go up to there, go to the end of the playground.
Mm.
A week later, we go to the next road, to the next school. And it's been like that. It's been very gradual, the change in my life.
Mm.
And I've always said for the first 18 months or so of my recovery, I still had this thing in my head that, I don't know if this is going to work. This really is quite difficult.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot out there now that people are getting clean, getting sober, and they don't find it challenging.
Mm.
I did.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did.
Sure.
And I remember having a little private conversation with myself saying, if I continue to feel this way in 6 months' time, I'm going to use.
Yeah. Sure.
And luckily, by the time it got to that stage, I'd thawed out a little bit.
Mm.
And I was able to kind of settle back into my skin and feel all right.
Yeah.
It's about the 18-month, 2-year mark. And ever since then, I have looked inside for answers and externally for strategies, models, solutions that I can couple with my 12-step therapy, 12-step program to help me stay clean, stay sober and move forward.
Well, I know you're a bit like me, quite like a stat. I mean, I'm guessing with your forensic background as well. And one thing that annoys both of us, we were talking about this over a coffee, is, we both like a TikTok, don't we? Do you know what I mean? And I enjoy TikTok a lot. One thing that really pisses me off is that 12-step fellowship has only a 5% success rate. And that actually isn't the full picture.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, there isn't really any data with AA and ACA. And actually, that isn't true. And I just wanted to share this with you. I know we spoke about it over a coffee. If you have no support and you just do it on willpower, you've got a 5 to 10% success rate of being sober a year later. But if it's severe alcohol use disorder or severe alcohol use disorder, it's less than 5%. Mm-hmm. Some stats, so it's less than 2%, which is barely anything. Now the 5% stat only applies to 12-step fellowship if you just attend a couple of times, so less than 3 days. So basically going once and then leaving. I mean, to me, that's like going to the gym once and then blaming the gym that you've not got fit. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense to me. But Cochrane did a huge review in 2020. They're kind of the gold standard for any kind of research. That then jumps to 42% at 1 year. This is all based on the Cochrane review. Go online and check it out. And there's even a long-term study, 16-year study, that says 67% still sober and clean a year later.
Yeah.
Similar stats with Smart Recovery, which I'm a big fan of as well, but it only goes up to 1 year because after that, people don't tend to stick around. That community aspect is so important. Not happening as much with Smart, it seems. Now, where things get really interesting, which is what you just said, and what you just talked about combining everything together, is actually backed up by the data, is if you combine it with therapy and medication. And when I say medication, I'm talking about anti-craving medication or, things like maybe naltrexone or dysphyllium or camprosate or Campral. It goes up to 85%. Mm-hmm. Now, I know these are just numbers at the end of the day, but actually the data really supports 12-step fellowship, particularly if you combine it with the things that you did.
Yeah. Yeah, poor old.
Sorry, rant over.
Yeah, poor old 12-step fellowship. It's taking a right bashing at the moment on social media. And, it's an anonymous fellowship, so I don't know how they got the data. But so my experience of being in 12-step fellowship is that everyone that comes in, there is a large number of people that don't stay around or end up relapsing and going back out.
Sure.
Okay. But what I've noticed through my period of time being there is I have a certain friendship group. Yeah. And all of these people are fully integrated into working the program, following all the suggestions, working with a sponsor, going through step work, doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And all the people that tend to do that are staying clean.
Yeah, sure.
And the way I see it, if I focus on that statistic and the people that are working the program, that percentage is not 5%.
Oh, absolutely.
That's way up there.
Yeah, of course.
That's way up there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, I've often said, and this doesn't just apply to 12-step fellowship, that I'm almost convinced that 100% of people that really want recovery get it. Yeah. I mean, that might be a bit of an overstretch, but, your own attitude towards your recovery. I mean, a lot of the times when I was relapsing, I was terrified it was going to work because I just wasn't ready for a clean and sober life. Yeah. Another big testament to your amazing recovery, and, it is amazing, is I know you had another very serious rock bottom in recovery with your son.
Yeah.
And you managed to not only get through that, but stay clean and sober, and now you're fundraising. I know it's an emotional question, but I wondered if you could give us a bit of insight on what happened there.
Yeah, absolutely. Once I'd embarked on the journey of recovery, it felt as though everything I was doing, everything I was attempting seemed to work. And it's like I had this magic potion, do the recovery stuff. And you get what you want. Everything falls into place. Nothing goes wrong. What a blissful life I am going to cruise through. And, and then I faced my tragedy. And what happened was myself and my wife, we'd already had our first daughter, Sophia. So she was born. She's a recovery baby. And she was born on the kitchen floor in the move-on flat that we was in.
Right.
And, so she's a year old or maybe a couple of years old. And my wife was pregnant. We was having our second child. So we said, we'll have him at home as well. So that on the birth certificate, they both got the same address, people do that nowadays. It's all good, blah, blah. And what happened on the night my wife went into labour, our son was breached. Now, we was told everything was okay prior to that, 2 weeks before at the hospital. And then suddenly our son's breached in the living room, and the midwives were unprepared. They didn't have all the equipment there, very chaotic. And just to kind of condense that story and not drag it out too much, my son was caught in the birth canal for about 29 minutes, I think it was, which really, really is severe for an adult, let alone a child. So he endured severe brain damage. But I managed to get him out. And I remember him saying, "We've got a heartbeat." And I remember in that moment thinking, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. They found a heartbeat and they'll take him to hospital, and hospitals do their thing and everyone's okay. So he's rushed to the NICU unit, the neonatal intensive care unit at St Michael's Hospital in Bristol. And he was taken to the ward, and he was the most poorliest baby on the ward. And myself and my wife were left distraught. We didn't know what was going on. It's very overwhelming for two people in recovery to kind of really get a grasp and an understanding of that. We was about maybe 5 or 6 years clean at the time, which sounds like a healthy chunk of recovery. But in theory, we're just getting to grips with life. You know, we've come into recovery, had a child, met each other. It's all a bit all over the place, and we're just finding our feet around that time. And then this happened. And unfortunately, where he was so poorly, he weren't able to breathe by himself. So they gave us an option of what we wanted to do. We said, we'll take him off the machines and we're going to let him have a go at breathing and see if he can breathe on his own, and see what that outcome would be. And unfortunately, I had to hold Jacob in my arms. My wife was clinging on to me as he came off the machines, and I don't even think he really took a breath. He just went, he passed. And yeah, that was the darkest moment of my recovery by far. And it's something that's really difficult to navigate and get through. You know, instantly I'm going into feelings of anger, blame, getting resentful to other people that are having children. You know, why them? On their third child that's going into social services.
Yeah.
You know, we would swap that. We would look after our son. Very venomous and resentful and bitter. And people come up to us and they didn't really know what to say. And everyone kept saying, time's a great healer, time's a great healer. And, at the time I just couldn't really get my head around stuff. But what I've learned is time is not a great healer. It's what you do with that time which will determine the level of healing. Myself and my wife, we both went our own individual ways on recovery. We both went through our own pains. We both supported one another. We both cried. We showed our vulnerability. We've done that.
Yeah.
Luckily I've been taught that it's okay to do that as a man.
Yeah.
Thank God there's brave men out there that was able to teach me that. And I was able to share that pain, go through that pain and heal. And I will say today, myself and my wife, we are healing. Not in the early stages. I'll say we're quite on a bit. We are healing. We've got our life back together. We know how to laugh. We know how to live. We know how to enjoy life. We know how to remember our son. We know how to cry as well on the anniversary of his death. Or when would have been his birthday. So it's quite a healthy situation that we're in. But I've always said that is the darkest time of my recovery, but it's not the darkest time of my life. The darkest time of my life was addiction because there was no hope. However, when my son died, we had hope.
Wow, that's amazing. What a brave thing to share with me as well. Emotional to hear. And obviously my condolences, it's a horrible, awful situation. And I certainly don't want to cherry pick anything out of it to try and, force a positive spin. But, you didn't use, you didn't pick up, you didn't use, neither did your wife. And if there is any positive to come out, is for the listeners and viewers to hear that you can get through the darkest times in recovery and still not relapse. That's a massive.
That's the message.
Yeah, that's massive.
When it happened, my sponsor at the time, no one said it to me apart from him. He said, "You do know you can get through this clean." And I'd forgot.
Wow.
Oh shit, yeah. I've got to stay clean.
Yeah.
And I had to put my focus into doing that and doing what I needed to do.
Yeah.
But, it is a message of hope and strength.
Absolutely.
That come what may, as long as we do the correct things, we allow, no one's ever done anything courageous unless they've first been vulnerable. So by embracing my vulnerability, allowing myself to be vulnerable, I was able to be courageous as well at the same time. Having a little bit of courage, understanding what I need to do, being tenacious with it, being repetitive with it, even when it just feels you're just going over the same stuff, and just kind of slogging on at times.
And and hearing another man say that is so important. To be vulnerable is to be courageous. Often we're taught something very, very different, aren't we, about what courage is. This episode is sponsored by Gavin Sisters, the passionate teetotal founders of the Detox Balm Retreat and the creators of Funky Coffee. If you love the taste of coffee but want to ditch the crash, Funky Coffee is your new go-to. Made from triple certified organic Arabica coffee and infused with powerful mushrooms, it gives you all the energy and none of the jitters. Plus, it's amazing for your gut, skin, and athletic performance. And if you're looking to recharge your body and mind, you've got to check out the Detox Barn. This award-winning retreat located in both the UK and the Algarve is a plant-based, alcohol-free sanctuary where you'll learn how to be healthier, happier, and more balanced. Whether it's for a weekend away or a full restorative retreat, just visit gavinsisters.co.uk and use the code School of Rock Bottom for 10% off your next retreat or a bag of their amazing Funky Coffee. That's School of Rock Bottom for a 10% discount for a healthier, happier you. Go check them out. In amongst all that sadness is a beautiful love story, though, with your wife, who's nearly, I think her clean time is similar to yours, right?
Yeah.
Now, often in recovery, and unfortunately we have to end on this, we've got about 7 minutes or we've got to wrap up here. Gosh, flying by. You often hear, don't you, when two people in early recovery and they get together? I mean, what's the stereotype? What do they say? How do you know when two addicts are on a second date? Because there's a moving in truck outside. And often people are like, no, you can't get together. Two sickies don't make a welly, and all of that stuff. Do you think that's still good advice? Do you think two people early in their recovery journey should sort of wait a year and maybe get a plant and all of that? I mean, I only ask because you're still together.
Yeah.
You've got a lovely daughter together. You supported each other through sadness. Yeah. What's your take on it now?
I heard someone say once in a share, an American lady, and she said, if it is a relationship between two consenting adults, it is no one else's business. Okay? My experience is that it is a very difficult journey.
Okay.
I believe we are the exception. It's not common for people to meet in early recovery and stay together, but we are part of a small group. I know other people that met in early recovery and stayed together.
Me too.
I think why it's happened is that I focus on my recovery. My wife focuses on her recovery. So I feel in the early days I might have tried sponsoring her a little bit. She'd do it like this, she'd do it like that. But she's very stubborn. She said, up yours. I'm going to do it this way.
Right.
And I do mine that way.
Yeah.
And we come and meet in the middle to talk, discuss, share, support, grieve, heal, that type of stuff. And been together 12 years and married for 3 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you think it's high risk because, I mean, if she'd have relapsed in the sort of first couple of years, do you think you would have relapsed or?
Well, it's very
you'll never
possible.
Know. Right.
I'll never know, thank God.
Yeah.
But I think what it is, if you think about what we spoke about earlier, so the drugs are the solution, they're a coping mechanism for what's going on inside. When we take the drugs away, we are left with ourselves, we are left with our feelings. What tends to happen for people in recovery when they remove the drugs and they go abstinent, so there's nothing there to kind of smother out those feelings, you are raw. So you start scrolling on social media, doom scrolling to get your dopamine kick, you are full of lust, your libido comes back. So, the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever you're attracted to, you're out there trying to find someone to make yourself feel better, gambling, shoes, trainers, whatever it is, we're trying to find that next fix. And the most common one is trying to find someone else, trying to find someone else to make us feel better.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so common, and it is so, so powerful.
Yeah. So
powerful. And it's so difficult to navigate because with that what it does, it really gives you an insight to your bad behavior patterns and what they say in fellowship, your character defects.
Sure.
Them parts of you that you want to keep hidden, they're very much exposed in a relationship early on in recovery.
So I suppose your odds then of picking the right person are probably much lower than a sort of a normal Tinder swipe, for example.
Yeah.
Sounds like you both got lucky.
We did, because it's very easy in the early days where you just go, yep, you'll do, you winked at me.
Slightly personal question, you don't have to share, but do you do separate meetings or do you go to meetings together, or just curious?
We do same fellowship.
Got you.
But we recover in different ways.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got it. Understood. Terry, I mean, it's absolutely flown by. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've got so many more questions I could have asked you as well, but I mean, what a brilliant hour it's been. You know, it's all covered, all the emotions, all the different stages, and gone into a lot of detail and depth. So I really, really thank you for coming down.
It's been brilliant. It's been my pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it as well. Guys, head to the show notes now. You will find loads of links on where you can follow Terry and, you know, connect with him in various different ways. If there's any websites or any other links, I'll whack it all there. Remember as well, there was an ad earlier on for Gavin Sisters. Head to the show notes for 10% off their funky coffee and wellness retreats. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe, leave me and Terry a comment. We'll watch it, we'll read it rather, and I'll share it with Terry and we'll get back to you. If you're on Spotify, please hit follow, really helps. Leave a little comment as well. And Apple, apparently, if you leave a review, that really helps the old algorithm. Please do that. That would really, really help. And until next time, I haven't let you down yet. There will be a brand new episode in 2 weeks' time. And until then, look after yourself. And thanks for watching or listening.